propaganda is at an all-time high. Our youth is not paying attention to what's going on legislatively.
We need to really think about centralizing our culture in some type of way.
Like a Negro encyclopedia, our culture is being hijacked. It's TikTok talk.
Gen Z hijacking African American language.
Do these children even know what they're saying? It's
Personally, I
crazy.
think the white replacement theory, the scare behind that is the catalyst
Oh,
behind
that's
this
right,
project
100%.
2025. What's good, family? Welcome to the Elevated Insights podcast. I'm joined by my cousin Kale, and here we just bring practical wisdom from a black perspective on the culture, politics, and economics and business. So, what's
100%. How
good
you
with you,
doing?
Kale?
What's up, my guy? What's up, my guy? My name is Michael Russell. So the main focus on Elevated Insight is giving a different view on the current views of what is currently going on in Black America. I think when we think about podcasts, the first thing that kind of pops up in mind is, how many body, does a person have? What's going on there? So shit that's not really relevant to the elevation of us as a people. The conversations are getting kind of drawn out. It's the same shit over and over. And I realized that there's a need for stuff like this where information is getting reported and is getting reported correctly. Propaganda is at an all-time high. Where they're utilizing social media. Our youth is not paying attention to what's going on legislatively. They're not paying attention to what's going on in papers. What they see is a clip note that's documented together with a few other bullshit, and they're running with that. So just in the mindset of talking about stuff that's really happening and that's really going to benefit us going forward. So that's just what I
Absolutely.
think.
Nah, absolutely. I think it's just about bringing like a different perspective too, like adding more to the positives. Because, I know how folk love to like joke around, talk mess, be trolls, get attention. And, I would say that it's more than just our culture. It's becoming just like global culture at this point for certain people. But yeah, man, I definitely want to start this to add a more elevated perspective to the conversations that's being had, especially as it pertains to our culture and our people. You
Oh,
feel me?
100%.
Because
100%.
yeah, man. So um let's get into it. Let's get into one of our first topics. So we have Gen Z, right? Hijacking African American vernacular, right?
Oh,
So
yeah.
just like we said, like we talk about the culture, we talk about politics and economics, and this is definitely something that definitely has to do with the culture. So talk to me a little bit about that, like some of your observations around Gen Z hijacking African American language.
So for me personally, right, as somebody that's 30 and up, right, you hop online, you on these videos and stuff like that, you're checking everything out. And one of the biggest things that kind of caught my eye to realize to go down to this rabbit hole was the usage of blood, right? And I kept seeing that on passages, blood this, blood that, blood this, and I'm thinking in my head like, do these children even know what they're saying, and where is this coming from, right? So when I think about them hijacking the words, they're really relative using stuff the wrong way, right? Another big word was Guyot. They don't even know what the fuck they're saying, right? Giot, that's goddamn is supposed to be what it is, right? And they're using it, and they turned it to the word that's just kind of just a sexual means in nature. Like goddamn was the nature of anything, right? Like, oh, my car was like, goddamn, my car broke down. Goddamn, it was all that. And now it's just, if under videos of some girls wearing stretchy pants or something like that. So it really is one of those things where like our cultural words are getting exchanged, right? And I seen a video from an individual, right? And what he said kind of pushed me into this narrative that our culture is being hijacked. Is he said that most of the words that we use is TikTok talk. Not that it's no longer black vernacular, right? Or conversation, right? It's TikTok talk. So they centralized our culture, the words that we use, stuff like that, as a callous to say that it's a Gen Z thing or a TikTok thing. And it's one of those things that it's really irritating to see if you're paying attention to what's actually going on social media.
Nah, absolutely. That made me think about also interestingly enough, it made me think about how like we grew up and like all of a sudden like we saying stuff and our parents like, you don't even know what you talk about. You don't even know what you
Yeah,
mean. Like you feel me?
100%. Yeah.
Like I'm thinking about that too. But Also, I think it goes into like a broader conversation of Black American culture. And this is one of the parts of like our society that people really need to begin to acknowledge, is that Black American culture is American culture. Like, you feel
Yes,
me?
100%. Yeah,
We are very strong drivers of what's cool, like, in America. And or like, it's like America is looked at as like a cool country, right? Or whatever.
right.
But on top of that, like, we make that cool. Like, we create that cool. That cool comes from our culture. Like, it's things that was created in the 90s and the fucking 70s, and like certain words and phrases and stuff like that that we've been using, and America then goes on to use it, and then like, sometimes it gets diluted or it looks crazy. But yeah, like, you know, yeah, that's what it makes me think to, like, and unfortunately, usually when it gets to like the main stratosphere of like America, just like you're saying right now, just like
Yeah,
you're explaining right now, it starts to get diluted, it get watered down. It's like, bro, when I was in school, you like when I was in middle school, you had to be careful on how you said certain things, and
oh,
around
100%.
who.
Yeah.
Like, you couldn't be outside talking about blood this and blood that. It's
Right.
a wrap. You're gonna have
Yeah,
to pay for that. you
100%.
know?
And that's what I said when it comes down to it. And I like the way that you clip note that, talking about how like our culture is easily accessible for everybody else, right? For them to kind of indulge in as much as they want. And I would say it's not even just an American aspect. You look at other countries and stuff like that, like our influence is worldwide, right? One thing that I do know is that you can pretty much go anywhere and you can find some type of resemblance of us somewhere out there in the middle of nowhere, right? I've been to countries, right, where I've seen, people wearing FUBU, and I'm like, yo, it's 2019. Like, what are we doing, right? So it really is. I feel like black culture is easily accessible to people, right? And they process it without really understanding like the historical means or the stuff that comes from some of the things that they're using, like the words or the stuff that they're doing. So it really is one of those things where I feel like it's the social media has made it easy for people to steal people's identity without really having to understand where that identity came from, right? Like it was a big issue not too long ago on TikTok. It was an Asian American woman on there talking about cornbread. She said she was saying some words that was using AAV, and when it comes down to it, there it was a different voice for them, and somebody tried to justify it as us as Black Americans, we have two different personalities when it comes to us, surviving society. It's like, oh, you got your office voice and you got your voice you kick with your homies. And I said that to myself, and I thought that there's two different things, right? Because one is we have to do that in order for us to fit in our considered ghetto, or they'll write us off, right? And the other is a person that's doing it for entertainment, or a person that's doing it without actually understanding why they're doing it. And I always thought it was important just to kind of bring that cliff note up, like it, it's weird to see how you know stuff that people have never been or never even dealt with are using. And it's mainly West Coast. So that
Man,
yeah, that's what me one way I see it.
man, West Coast lingo, it stick harder. Like West Coast black lingo to me
Yeah,
stick harder globally, nationally than any other lingo. Like, because sometimes even like I'll get around people, they are everybody. It's like this, right? I remember I went to, and even like, and let's just say LA, right? Because when I went to college in the Bay Area, right? And they had this saying, and it threw me for a loop. Like everything that they said threw me for a loop, right? We in conversation. I don't know what these dudes talking about, right? This dude said I was catting off, and I was like, "What the hell are you
yeah,
talking about? I am
yeah,
catting off. What the
yeah,
fuck?" Right? So he said that, and then he explained to me what it meant, like, and it's just like basically, and for the Oakland folk out there, I might mess this up, but it just meant like you was flaking or something like that,
right, yeah,
right? Like you flaking, or you BSing basically. And so there was a lot of language that I learned when I got there, but lo and behold, they knew kind of all of the language that we had. Um, but yeah, like definitely. And by the way, shout out to Damon John, because you mentioned Fubu. Shout out to
yeah,
Damon John for creating a worldwide. brand
Brand.
and laying a framework. You probably like I don't think a lot of people even understand that he probably the reason why they want to start a clothing line and they don't even know it.
Oh,
You
100%.
know
Yeah.
that's a whole nother topic in itself. But going back to the Av thing, right? You know, one thing that I was thinking, right, and I've always been thinking about this because we don't really control our culture. Like,
No,
like we don't have control over it. Like, it's like this magical fucking creative, like, I don't know, like fucking magic creative juice, nigga, that just is just brewing at all times, right? And it's just
right.
producing shit left and right, left and right, left and right, left and right. And we just put it out into the air and we just put it out into the air and don't even care about where it goes or what happens to it. And in my mind, I'm thinking like, man, we need to really think about centralizing, you know, our culture in some type of way, shape, or form,
Right.
where where certain things come from, like where we have remnants of like our culture recorded, you feel me, on a website or
Right.
something where it's like, okay, yeah, this is what this means, this is where this came from, like things of that nature, like where we
Like
actually start to centralize our shit, like
like a Negro encyclopedia.
yeah, like
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah, totally get it.
white people own Urban Dictionary, like but
Yeah.
it's filled with our language and our vernacular, like and I just think that we need to have something more centralized for our culture, like it don't have to be like you know political or nothing like that,
Mm.
but just something where like you can really see the origins of shit, like
Oh yeah.
like
And I really feel like too many times, often more than not, when it's time for us to monetize off our own culture, we get cut out of it every time. Like, and then one of the biggest things I always talk about shoe culture, right? Like, it's crazy, right? Because before like this boom in shoe culture, only people who really cared about it was people that was for urban areas, right? Nobody cared about wearing J's or wearing Nikes. It was cool with New Balances and well, from DMV brothers and sisters because they was always on the New Balance kick, but when I say like the shoe culture, it was, what I'm saying, Jordans, what I'm saying, Nike, stuff like that. Nobody really cared about that, right? And all of a sudden, like the shoe culture started booming, right? And you got these resellers who don't really understand the cultural significance of putting together an outfit with a pair of shoes and some white Air Forces and shit like that. They really don't get that, right? And they're making millions of dollars off something that we've been doing culturally for a very long time, right? And that's one of the things that always bothers me when it comes time for us to monetize off our culture. Somebody always beats us there to it, right? And it's always like, oh, resellers come in, they buy up all the stock, and you get a pair of shoes that used to be like 150, now they pushing $600, $700 on websites and stuff like that, and it kind of really pisses you off, right? Because that's another way of them hijacking something that didn't really belong to them, and now it's out there for everybody. Like we look at the way kids is dressing, everybody's wearing streetwear. I'm like, streetwear? I'm like, that's black culture. This is black culture, right? You know what I'm saying? Like come on now. Like I always feel like they are really masterful with utilizing words to change stuff that fit them or fit their narrative, right? And it's like one of those biggest things is like if you can monetize all black culture, you're gonna make millions of dollars because like I said, we are the trends. If you look up on TikTok dances, 90% of TikTok dances are coming from us. A lot of the stuff is coming from people that look like me and you. And when it comes down to it, we're not making the money off the stuff that we're doing. And I think that like it was some girl off TikTok, I forget what her name was, and she was, doing dances that other black creators were doing before her, and she was blowing up off these dances. And I'm like, it's easy to market them doing the same exact stuff that we do. And that really bothers me sometimes too, you know.
Yeah, man. That to me it goes back to the like two things, right? One, I don't think we ever really do things for the money. Like, like we really be doing things for the creativity and from the heart. Like, and that's why we don't really think about making money off of it until again, I do think like until it's too late. Like, I
Yeah,
think now at this moment, you talk to any young person now, any young black kid, like I work with black youth, and that'd be the first thing that they be talking about. Is like, yeah, okay, how could I make some money off this?
yeah,
And to be honest, you wanna know what's crazy? Is that is starting to block some of their creativity. That is
right,
blocking their creativity, is the fact that they're trying to think about how to monetize every little thing instead of actually just
right,
creating create, like because back in the day that's what we was doing, we was creating. And now, and now, like we got social media, and now you can see how much money people making and everything now. And like every little post you see, somebody is like on an island or just doing something, giving the illusion of freedom, because how many of these people are actually living free,
Oh,
right?
100%. Yeah,
But because of that, you know, now our youth are thinking too much, in my opinion, about making money. Or let me not say too much. Let me not say too much, because we do got a lot. We got to catch up, like
yeah,
economically as a people, right? But I do think that there's a good balance, and I think that our youth are losing a little bit of their creativity, just thinking about the money and trying to gravitate to like some of the next things out there. So,
yeah.
um, but
You
yeah,
know,
man,
it
go ahead.
really reminded me of a conversation that me and you had a while back, right? Like, when it comes to, what I'm saying, people obviously, trying to do whatever they need to do to make it, they become this next big social media influencer, or whatever the case may be. I was like really thinking about like empathy. When it comes to empathy, I think social media has given people the ability to not be a part of humanity no more, right? And when I say that, I'm thinking in my head like, there's times where I go on social media, right, and we look up, comments and stuff like that, and it'd be like a sad video, right? And then, before that, you would process that, and I'm me thinking as a '90s kid, right? I look at this video and I'm thinking like, oh, that's pretty sad. It's a terrible thing, right? And there's some kid under there, private anonymous account, or they don't really give a shit who they are because they're looking for that viral comment. Do you think that social media is creating individuals to lack empathy when it comes to situations? I'm just thinking about some of the stuff, especially with the whole, Palestine stuff. I really feel like, us as society, we're not empathetic anymore because, mainly because maybe we're processing trauma at a higher rate than, our ancestors would. It's like as soon as you log on to something, if you see something that is trauma based, is that affecting how our children interacting with each other, in the real world?
Yeah, I think it's we're starting to get an overexposure to trauma. Like, I mean, not starting since the internet,
Yeah. Oh,
we've getting an overexposure to trauma, and so it desensitizes you. It's the similar effect that porn has, right?
yeah,
Like, and like how watching too much porn will kind of desensitize you to like actual like intimacy and sex and stuff like that.
yeah.
But
That's
like
very accurate. Yeah.
I think it's yeah, I just think it's that overstimulation of trauma. And now, because just think about this, right? It, if I saw, and damn, this is like, I don't know, maybe this is part of the evolution of the human being too. Because like if technology is going to get to this point, then information is going to be shared at this level, right? And if
Yeah.
information will be shared at this level, everything is going to be shared at this level, from porn to trauma, right? And
100%.
so just that, just as you can see big booty back shots whenever you get ready, right?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
can see like you
Actual
can
back
also see
shots.
somebody,
Yeah,
yeah, somebody is
yeah,
shot in the back or like legs blown off. Imagine seeing that like 2 3 times in a week, which
yeah.
we did during the Palestine, and like during the height or the beginning of the Israel and Palestine conflict. We saw
Right,
a lot of trauma on a regular basis, like, and don't get me wrong, I think it's very important for the world to see it,
right.
because like we need to know what the hell is going on.
100%.
But then it's like now, I'm not saying if I see it now it's gonna be crazy, but I've
Right.
seen it already,
Yeah.
and so
And
like
I think you're right. It loses its shock value. You know what I'm saying? Like people are not paying attention to it anymore, and it's because it's so frequent. People are just scrolling right past it. The issues are still there. The trauma is still there. The pain is still there. But for me, my problem is not the people who scroll past it. Obviously, that's the issue, right? Because they're scrolling past, and these people, it needs that exposure. They need to be seeing that what's going on over there is fucking ridiculous, right? But my thing is that the people who hop on there without facts, without information of what's going on, and say some of the most atrocious shit. And I'm thinking in my head, like, do you not see yourself in these people? Like, where is humanity at where we're not paying attention to what's going on in areas where people, what I'm saying, same thing is going on in Africa and Congos with their displacement, right? Like, what are we doing as a people? And I'm talking about society in general, right? Where we look at a video like that and we decide to hop on there and try to say some funny or try to say some shit that has no type of human emotions behind it. And that's where my problem is. You know what I'm saying? Like there has to be some type of way that we start reaching out to the youth for them to understand that the trauma that they're processing, the pain that they're processing, is real people. And I think that given the opportunity for people to really focus on that, this is happening to somebody that, and it could be you, and not just somebody miles and miles away that's on the internet. Because when you hop on the internet, you have that ability to be anonymous, right? You can say whatever the fuck you want, do whatever the fuck you want, and there's no repercussions for it. There's no consequences for it, you know. And that's what really kind of gets me is that there's people on there saying crazy stuff, and they're not really focused on their real human issues. And like I said,
Mm,
even just not even the Palestine stuff, the stuff that was going on with George Floyd and all the stuff like that, the comment section, in the videos where he was posted were crazy, you know? And I'm thinking in my head, like, do you not see yourself? And I realize most of these people don't see themselves in the situations where people are dying or the situation where people are needing help. And, I'm from the place where, they have like this thing called bystander intervention, right? And it's like they see somebody doing something or something happening, and the first thing they do is decide to pull out their phone, and they're not, helping these individuals out. What are we doing as a society where we're okay with watching people do atrocious shit in front of them, and then pulling out your phone to catch it so you can catch a viral moment is really what I think is wrong with half of society today.
yeah.
So just my
Y-
whole thing is like,
You
but that
know,
that's it. That's my view.
right. You know, my thing with that immediate, like when you said George Floyd, right, it made me think of like the past and like lynchings and stuff like that, and how you can see these pictures and videos of like, like what picnics stood for, right? Like pick a nigga, and like lynchings, right? Where like, people is out chilling and stuff while a black man is hanging from a tree.
Right,
It's like position, I think a little bit of it is position, where some people, there's people on both sides of the fence with the Israel and Palestine stuff, and so I think that people who are like against it are looking at them as their enemies potentially,
right,
right?
right,
In which, like, if you see something happen to enemies, then you gonna be like, oh yeah, cool, whatever,
right,
versus like people who are on the side of the people who are being harmed. They're like, oh, this is wrong, like,
right.
and then you got people who are just observers like you and I, who is just like, bro, this is bad on both sides, like
Yeah,
this is bad
100%.
on in it,
Yeah,
like this is, I mean, it's bad that whatever happened to spark this, but it's also bad that like there's not another solution that could be had besides just bombing these people to death, like,
right,
and so, and then you have like those people who won't clout and who won't who feed off of likes and comments and
oh,
interactions and stuff like that,
100%.
like,
Yeah,
and this is like, this gets into that thing where like I feel like I would love if the online world could be similar to the real world, whereas
yeah,
like you have to account for what you say. Like if you said some crazy stuff in a group of people, you might have to pay for that. You might
yeah,
have to, you might have to face some type of consequence for that, like whether somebody want to sock you in your mouth,
right,
or whatever. Versus like you at home, nobody around, nothing like that. You say this dumbass comment, and you know there's no, there's like no
no big
repercussion or
picture.
anything to it, and it's like you don't want to get into the conversation of like having to censor people, and cut people off. But I definitely do think that at a certain point people should definitely have to account for what they say in different
Yeah,
places online. And I'm not sure if, like, I'm not sure what that solution look like, but
right,
I do feel like that's a direction that we need to get into. And then as far as the empathy thing, you know I think that it's a cool little generation of like parents, and I might not blame the parent for say, because like I'm a parent, you a parent,
right, yeah,
and it's hard to monitor and manage every little thing that your kid do, because we
right,
so busy out here having to work and grind, and you know
100%.
make the
Yeah,
money. You feel me? We be tired. Like, we teach the lessons and stuff to our kids, but at the end of the day, like it's only so much that we can do.
yeah,
Um,
100%. And that's what it
like,
really was. boils down to, and I really like what you said, right? I feel like the ability to not be able to be touched is making people lose touch of
Ooh,
what they're supposed to
bar,
be actually. Yeah, a little bit, little bit. But
a
I'm saying,
bar.
like, if you really think about it, bro,
We
like
need a
what you said
bar
is,
dropper.
yeah, bar,
We we need a
give them a
bar
bar dropper.
button.
You know what I'm saying?
We
Some
need a
some
bar
clue
button.
bombs, some clue bombs, right? So that's what I'm saying. That really boils down to it. It's kind of crazy, right? Because like you said, there's no repercussions. So that makes people think that they can say whatever they need to say. As parents, like you said, it's hard to filter what our children are currently watching. And we said that earlier, right? Where, the whole picnic with slave shit, that's, or, just not, it's not slaves. These were Black American people who
Yeah,
were
yeah,
captured,
yeah.
right? They were captured,
Absolutely.
right? Right.
Thank
So
you for
there's a,
that. Thank you for that. And on top of that, we were freed,
yeah,
and this was like motherfuckers also just going to fucking work every day, like
right.
regular ass Americans just out here chilling, and then somebody get mad at them for whatever fucking reason, or if they didn't
Yeah,
like them, or whatever it was. But yeah, thank you for that correction.
yeah. And I was so, it came down to it. If you look at pictures, right? These people brought their children to these hangings. They literally had their children at these hangings. And I'm like, what kind of twisted, demented human being you have to be to bring your child to a public lynching, right? And you really see like stuff like that. It really makes you think, well, what was their mindset, right? But they didn't look at us as humans, right? It was like lamb to the slaughter to them, right? For them to cut pieces of body parts off and take it home, right? They were like putting stuff on postcards and sending it back to their family and shit. Like shit was crazy, right? Like that was some crazy things, right? And I was like
Hey,
reading when we were talking about a book, like they was literally eating Black people. There's a book called the Delectable Negro. I think that's what it's called.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
just
yeah.
crazy, bro. Like they were literally eating Black people, and I think that's like that whole history, that historical, reference points to that stuff is not, it's not really talked about. And that's really when it comes down to like when we discussing like if they're trying to ban Black history, right? Because they say it is woke. They're not really even teaching real Black history, because if they really taught some of the atrocities that has happened to Black people in this country, it would probably make a lot of people stand still. Like I
Y-
seen a comment not too long ago, and it was on TikTok, right? Because that's the place of reference. A person said, and they obviously, of Caucasian descent, they said that, what would happen if white people came into Black communities and destroyed them? And this person started listing off numerous of Black communities, and I'm like, and his comment was unavailable, right? Because he really didn't know. And I'm thinking to my head is like they're not really taught real history when it comes to the things that their grandmas and grandfathers have done. And it really makes you think on how much do our children actually know? Do they know about the Rosewood? Do they know about the Tulsa bomb? Like, do they know about these massacres that has happened? Like this big thing with Lake Lanier, right? Where, what I'm saying, they get ready to open up a park, and people don't know there was a thriving Black community at the bottom of Lake Lanier. The same thing with Central Park. People don't know there was a thriving Black community in Central Park. So there's a lot of history that I feel like we're not discussing. You know what I'm saying? And maybe that is the reason why people get on the internet with a racist chest and say shit wrong wholeheartedly and be fucking wrong the whole way through. And I'm thinking in my head, like, how do you not know that? But then I realized I didn't know that until I got out of school, because they're not
Until
teaching
you got
real
out of
Black history.
school, oh God,
So I got history, bro. So come on now.
bro. It's crazy because of course, I'm addressing some of these things in my woke washing video. I've been editing it, and it's been taking me forever to do this. Because I live
Yeah,
a regular life. I got kids,
yeah,
a fucking wife, and I got a job and stuff. So it's taking me a minute
100%.
to get it out. But
Yeah,
it's crazy because they call all of this woke, and they try to demonize the struggles and the history and the achievements of the Black community by using that term. And then they also conflate it with like the LGBTQ community and the Democrats. Like that had nothing to do with none of that.
no, 100%.
It's crazy because you say that they're not really teaching real Black history, because it that's so true. Like you literally, like, they, like, if you see, like, I was looking at the Florida legislature, right, that had passed or whatever. I think it was Florida. I believe it was Florida and like some other places, and they're
Right,
banning
Florida.
AP African American history in the college, right?
Right.
And
but
so if
not
you're
European,
banning
not
you,
European. Yeah,
mind you, nigga, you have to be a motherfucking AP college student to learn about it.
right,
Like, you don't have to be a high school student. You're not in
right.
high school, right? Because I ain't learned about it in high school. I grew up in California. You feel me? We grew up in California.
Yeah,
I grew up in fucking Watts. Like, I went to school, public school system. They say this the wokest place in America or whatever, LA, California. I ain't learned about all of that in school, right? I mean, I had
right.
the program that I was in, but besides that, besides the program, like, I ain't learned about that stuff. And I learned about mine really by getting inspired by some of the older people that I follow on Facebook. And then I did my own research and read some books. I was like, oh shit, this is what really happened.
Yeah,
Talking to some of my uncles and aunties, and they putting me up on game. So, you
we
know,
actually live that. Yeah, we actually live that
yeah,
lifestyle.
and then also too, like my dad, right? My dad, for those people who don't know, probably everybody in here, but my dad was born in 1938 in Shreveport, Louisiana, and so he
Yeah,
he had firsthand accounts with all of this type of racism. So he would sprinkle a little bit of me here and there for what I could understand at the time of me growing up. And then but I never learned it in school, right?
yeah.
Like, never learned it in a formal way in school. They always taught you Martin Luther King. They teach you Martin Luther King because he had a nonviolent movement, and that like, it just arouses the consciousness and the heart, and they don't really have to fight hand to hand with that, so they cool with that. You feel me?
He
um
was easy to digest.
yeah, he easy to
He was easy
digest. And yeah, but even Martin Luther King though, like, I mean, that was an incredible movement, like, but that's something else we could talk about another
yeah,
time. Probably probably on Martin Luther King Day we can go down how incredible his movement was, because it was incredible. Like, but again, they teach too much of it, and they don't teach you the real Black history. Because then once you start learning the real Black history, though, you really become prideful in who you are as a Black person. Because
yeah,
all
100%.
throughout history up until fucking 2020, they wanted you to be ashamed of being Black. You feel
Yeah.
me? But
Our man was saying
back to
like
you.
you were slaves. Yeah, he's like, all
Exactly,
we were
exactly.
slaves. Yeah, well, when you really think about the advancements and how many patents that Black Americans invented that we currently use right now, or a variation of that, and you think to yourself like, oh, we wasn't doing nothing at all. Like, we are pioneers in a lot of aspects. And it's like the whole fucking country music thing with Beyonce. Like, oh, it's not country. And when you ask people, why isn't it country? It sounds country, right? That it's no different than any other type of country. So they can't really give a real explanation. It's just not country. And when you look at the origin of music, country is derivative from black culture, right?
Yeah,
And it's, yeah, of course, it's obviously a little different, but most musical inspiration that is in the Americas are from black culture. At some point or some time, it came from somebody that looked like me and you, right? So when people was like in uproar about this whole country thing, I'm like, we've been doing that. We've been doing jazz. We've been doing blues. Rock is even something that came from black culture as well. But it's one of those things where it really boils down to that people are really good at spreading propaganda, so much so that it looks like we're doing nothing. It looks like we were
man,
nothing,
that we ain't
and
did shit.
it's fucked up. It's fucked up, man. It's fucked up. It's
It
fucked
is.
up.
You know what's
Uh,
crazy too is that, like, America could claim these things, right? Like, it's still America.
Yeah,
Like, we didn't make this shit in Africa and then bring it here. We
right.
made this shit when we was here. So,
Yeah,
like, they love to just be like, oh, fucking, uh, they love to tell us that, you know, oh yeah, black people ain't start this or whatever, and American this, America that. But bro, it's American. Like, I don't see why they don't just be happy that, okay, black people made it, but black people are Americans, and this is an American genre that was created here in America. You can't have pride in that. Like, you feel me? And that just
because
lets you know, like, the separation that still exists in their mind. Um,
they would have
but
to
also,
admit that we are something. And if they've been
yeah,
spending years
exactly.
telling us that we're
More than
nothing, yeah, why would you do
exactly.
that? Why would I give you benefit of saying that you created this, or benefit of saying you did this, or benefit that you? Why would I give you that if I spent my whole time selling it to not just people in America, but the rest of the world, that you're not worth nothing because you're black? Like when
Yeah.
I step in and I think about the actual meanings of the projects, right? You know, you look at Watts, and you look at the JDs, you look at all these areas, right? And you think about, you know, how they even, you know, became a thing. That should piss you off. That should infuriate you, right? You know, you got red line, you got all these things that, you know, that put people in these bad situations. Same things with drugs that flooded into our community. Like that shit wasn't us, and it would never have happened. You know, if they didn't destroy prominent black neighborhoods when we were trying to, you know, come out of this, you know, weird, you know, Jim Crow or area segregation. Like they were killing people because they were getting mad because they had more land. Like it was a lot of weird shit that was going on, and I think that people don't understand that the reason why Black America is right now is a symptom of things from the past, and the
Yes,
only
it's
way
a
to correct
legacy.
that is legacy. Only way to
It's a
correct that,
legacy of racism. And, and,
yeah,
and see, that's where they love to say that systemic racism isn't real because there's no law saying that black people can't do nothing today. And I'm like, cool, that's arguable and debatable in my opinion. Cool. Like you
one
can
hundred
say
percent,
nothing like stuff that now, like, okay, cool. But there is a legacy. Like it's still a reason why majority of black people are at the bottom of all the negative statistics in America. Right. And in
yeah,
every fucking state and in every fucking city. There's a reason why, and that reason is the legacy of all of those the structural racism that exists in the past, like and
yeah,
that is also the reason. Knowing those things was the primary reason why it was important for people to be woke, right? And
one
that's
hundred
where the
percent, yeah,
word, that's where the
yeah,
fucking word, that's what the fucking word meant, was like knowing the fact that this shit was happening to you in your communities and stuff like that. And don't let nobody tell you that it ain't, because it is.
right,
And here's all of the proof and the facts and the laws and all of these things that
happen,
that leads up to what's going on right now. Like be
right,
woke and understand your history, understand your achievements, understand your struggles, and understand where the fuck you need to go. That was the meaning of being woke in the beginning.
yeah,
And they want to like, I get that the movement kind of got co-opted a little bit. Like, you see black people putting up "Stay woke" on their fucking protest signs, and
yeah,
then all of a sudden you like, damn, that's a good motherfucking word. And now
yeah,
you got all these other communities using it. Hey, stay woke.
yeah,
This community, yeah, we stay woke
yeah,
too. And now all of a sudden, now you got Ron DeSantis like, we fight the woke in the legislature, we fight the woke
yeah.
in the school, we fight the woke in the club, we fight like, damn, nigga, like you don't even know what the fuck it mean or where it came from.
A lot of fighting, yeah. And I feel like that's when we talked about earlier, what worries me a hijack, that has to be one of the biggest hijacks in history, right? Because
Whew.
it makes you to a point where we don't even want to use that word woke anymore anyway. It's like, okay, now what? Enlightened? Because you know what I'm saying? Like you can't say
Oh my
woke
god.
without it being adjusted to this negative connotation that is utilized and it's there to negatively affect people of color. People, you know, so for me personally,
Yeah.
that's one of my biggest things is like, you know, they did that shit when it came to like the mermaid. Oh, the mermaid is, I'm like, she's a fictional human being. Like, what are we talking about? Like, why are we mad about this? But then I realized, I'm like, y'all did that when it came to people of the Bible. Like, there's some dude named Chad that was running around the Sahara. He was running around Egypt and shit, making stuff happen. I'm like, and it's just one of those things where it's like we have to be mindful on the way that we indulge in other cultures as well as the way people indulge in our culture because
Yeah.
they can use words like that, hijack it, and use it as uh, a negative thing, and it shows right with all the legislation that they're currently passing in Florida, which is like the fucking test ground for what racist people want for the rest of America, and it's crazy. It's definitely crazy, and I feel like people, if we're not paying attention, we they're working hard, right? And I think about like it's this thing called the Great White Replacement Theory, right? Or the Great Replacement Theory in general. And it's basically saying that people that are of color, that are non-white, are going to come and take America away from white Americans, and it's terrifying, right? Because it there's so much violence that happened after the fact of this thing coming out, right? Like you had the grocery store shooting in Buffalo, New York, right? Where this guy really believed in this great white replacement theory, right? That they're gonna be taking over the government. You know what I'm saying? Like that basically the white family is in jeopardy, right? Like saying that there is more white children not being born than the older generation dying out, and they're afraid to become the minority in this country. And I think, well, why would you be afraid to become a minority in a country if everything's equal, if everything's a form of equality, right? And I really think it boils down to the fact that they fear that we would do to them what they have done to every other minority, any opportunity that they ever had the chance to do. And I'm thinking, I'm like, it's it's a real fear for them, and they're gonna fight like hell to make that happen. And I think that as we progress, we're gonna start seeing things get more aggressive. I think MAGA, was like the start of the bullshit, right? And it was like the start of this white Christian conservative values that aren't really conservative. I mean, or are really Christian values. Period. If you believe in that type of stuff, right? And it's terrifying. It's definitely terrifying.
No, absolutely. It's funny because, like, bro, black people, bro, it's gonna be a fucking party. Like, bro, if we was a majority of the country, bro, we'd just be like turned up. Like, I don't even think, like, bro, black people ain't even. We just trying to live and do our thing. Like, of course, you're gonna have some people who have like they deep resentments, but that's on both sides. Just like you just mentioned, old boy went up and shot up the fucking the folk who fucking grocery shopping. Like,
Yeah,
like it's like it's just the deep resentments is going to be on both sides, and I'm not like implying that any that black person is going to go around shooting people because of whatever.
no,
I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying that, like, of course you're going to have folk who are going to be resentful, but like that's where they just like they don't know, like they don't know black folk, like you feel me,
yeah,
like they would claim to know us or whatever. They know us
absolutely right.
enough to make some fucking money off of us, but like
Yeah,
that whole theory is just like, bro, that's on y'all. Like, bro, if
yeah,
y'all women and y'all, like, y'all families, y'all households just not having a positive amount, a net positive of kids, then like, bro, that has nothing to do with us. Like,
yeah,
like we're just literally existing, and then, like if you look at black population, it's not really going up like that. Like, the population that's
no,
going up the most right now is like Hispanic,
right.
and other immigrant groups. I mean, if you really want to keep it a buck, like,
Yeah,
so I don't know, like that to me, that has always just been really weird because it's like one of those like self agency things where,
no,
like,
100%.
I guess like they could fix that problem within their own community, and but like they're trying to make blanket type of policies now for the whole country. It's like that's weird. Like, to me that's
Yeah,
weird. That's where you was telling me about Project 2025, and I think
yeah, it's
personally, I
crazy.
think the white replacement theory, it like the scare behind that is the catalyst
Oh,
behind
probably
this
2025,
project
100%.
2025. Yeah, and it's like, and again, like you was telling you had told me this earlier, where they're like the most organized that they've ever been ever. Like,
On this issue, right? You know what I'm saying? Because obviously, they have not been. We seen that when it came for them getting rid of the Speaker of the House at that one point in time, so they could replace it with somebody that was more MAGA related, right? But this is the most organized they have ever been. I'm talking about across the board. They got Republican think tanks all over the place from like multiple different organizations, right, coming together to figure out what they need to do to install a dictator, right? And I mean, I think the idea was kind of built around Donald Trump, but them knowing that it could be built behind anybody, right? And I think that this Project 2025 is going to be scary if it is implemented at the fact that they're going to really try to get rid of almost everything that they deem woke, right? And like I said earlier when I talked to you earlier, I think Florida is the testing ground to see how far they can get away with this shit and how much they can, and to see what's our response. What are we going to do to fight this from happening on the grand scale, right? I mean, this is how that type of stuff happens, right? It starts with banning certain things of education, but after that, it becomes something bigger, right? I mean, you look at Project 2025, they're talking about, mobilizing national, defense, mobilizing national guards, against liberal, territories and stuff like that. And
yeah,
it's terrifying. It's a terrifying thing. You know what I'm saying? Just giving them the ability to deploy, people against people if they don't like the policies that they have, right? And I mean, it's one of those things where we're gonna have to really be careful how we vote, and I think it's such a weird thing to say. Be careful how we vote as Black Americans, because there's both sides that don't really benefit us, and I don't feel like we always go with the lesser of two evils. But in this case, it's fucking evil, and if we allow these people to get in here and install these fucking uh, Gustavo type of government branches and shit like that, it's gonna be bad for people of color. So
Absolutely.
it's one of my biggest things. I think people are they're not being wise, and when I look at the propaganda that's been spread, because I be seeing stuff like come from like World Star Hip Hop and other places like that, and they say right wing shit, and I'm thinking in my head like, who's really running these pages? You know what I'm saying? And then you look in the comment section, and there's motherfuckers that's not really understanding that a lot of stuff is cause and effect. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that Joe Biden is amazing president because shit, he ain't right. But for me, it's like one of those things where is you have all the stuff that was legislatively started before he took over, right? When it comes to like, oh, the gas prices are terrible, right? And you have video footage of Jared Kushner talking about, he was working with Saudi Arabia and Russia and everybody to, decrease oil production. And if you decrease oil production, what happens fucking next, right? Like they put that gap in the system and we are still reeling from the gap in the system. People are like, oh, taxes are way higher. And there was a tax plan that Trump put in place where the top 1%, the people who are wealthy, they get this permanent tax break, but the people who are like us, that's working middle class, right, our taxes go up for increments for the next 10 years. So there's a lot of stuff that I feel like us as people, we are not paying attention to. We do terrible when it comes to us looking for research outside of social media. And that's what fucks us.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
you know what's crazy? So like I got a couple things, right? Hold on. So
Right.
and so for one, right, with the Project 2025, it's like this is, and unfortunately for them, like I mean not for them, but for us, this is the most prime time to do something, right? Because everybody is so fucking confused. They don't know what to believe, and people go on social media to figure out what they need to believe. Like, they wake up in the morning, they go straight to social media and they figure out what they want to believe. And so that has put our people in a state of confusion, especially, the Democrats to me, like on a grand scale, not like the local Democrat folk, but like the big Democrat folk, like federal and shit with the president and all of that, they have failed like everybody. I think
Right.
they've low key felt that they felt the nation by not finding somebody better than Joe Biden, and not somebody and not and not putting ideas like strong ideas to the forefront. That's why nobody in the black community wants Biden, because there are no good ideas. There's not a strong presence. It's just a lot of things that are lacking from him on his end that is causing a lot of black people to just be like, okay, well, who next? And then it's like,
No,
again,
100%.
this is like a bigger, broader problem. Is that like not just with black people, but with all people, is where we don't really think about um, your camera is froze. You might have to like close it and then turn
Goes
it
back
back
in.
on. Yeah, but yeah, it's just like it's a problem because it's just a broader problem in society where you wake up and you figure out what you want to think based on social media, instead of like doing a little bit of reading, doing a little bit of research. Like you see something, let me go research and read about that. Let me find two different perspectives. So a lot of people are confused, right, at this point. Um,
Right.
and so this is a good time to strike, right, for the right, the opposition party, right, that 20 Project 2025 shit, they got us fucked up, right.
Right.
And then you say be careful how you vote, like, and because your point was on how we never have good options to vote, and again that just goes back to the Democratic Party not supplying us with sufficient candidates. Like,
No.
this is where like black people really need to get their own political party. Like, we really need to get our own type of political party. And I think that like people need to really um start to have conversations on both sides, because I do know that black people can get, on one side we can get very liberal, and then we also have like folk in our community who can be conservative, and then you got folk who are like in the middle. And I think that we like black folk really need to think about getting like having their own political party, having their own think tanks. And I know we have them, but
Right.
I think these systems need to start working together. Like, like I come across a lot of nonprofit organizations, a lot of organizations just in the whole landscape who have great ideals, great thoughts, great leadership, like, and again, just like you said, a lot of people are getting their knowledge and information from podcasts,
Yeah,
podcasts, YouTube videos, TikTok, Instagram, and these organizations are out here doing the great work, but they're not like marketing it and selling it appropriately to like
right.
actually sway public and get the public to understand. And I think right now is the most critical time to begin to do that. Like, and
Yeah,
matter of fact, not even right now, I think yesterday, right?
yeah,
2022, 2023 was a great time to start doing that as you saw like that rise in conservative media. You
yeah,
know, like I personally had to start watching a lot of conservative media just so that way I can stay up to date on shit that's happening in the global economy. Like,
hundred
but
percent. Right,
also I gotta spy on the ops too. I gotta spy on the ops. I got to make sure I know what the fuck the ops is planning. But
right.
I just don't see. It's a lot of organizations that's doing good work, and they're not like nobody knows about them. And
Yeah,
I'm like, I think in this day and age, everybody needs to have some type of media company promoting their ideas, promoting their values to the world, right? So
oh,
that way, because right now so much conservative talk right now, and not enough like I'm gonna just say middle ground, right? It don't have to be
yeah,
liberal. Although, like, yeah, cool, it can be liberal, and there are some liberal
right.
voices out there, but it can like we need some better, more balanced perspectives out there. Like I
Yeah,
think everybody like to me, it's like if you far right, you crazy, and if you far left, you crazy. You feel me? And like I
right.
just think it's a lot of fucking crazy people talking, right? And right
Yeah,
now, the people on the right is talking a little bit louder. They got a lot more platforms at the moment,
yeah.
and yeah, like I don't know, and see, the thing is that you can do all the great work in the world, but if the people don't believe in you, then
Dang, it's supporting. Yeah,
exactly you're gonna lose whatever support and stuff that you got. So
yeah.
yeah,
And I
man,
really
I'm
feel like I really feel like that,
hey,
like you said, that it really that really boils down to.
your video froze, so I don't know, maybe you want to, yeah,
You
hit
see me
that
now?
again. I can, but it's in the same position. But I honestly just keep
Yeah,
going because
yeah.
I think the way that it records it is going to get the video off your phone.
I mentioned
But go
right.
ahead.
So for me personally, I feel like you said, I feel like we really need people who can rally behind these organizations that benefit people of color, right? Or just Black Americans in general when it comes to our voices being heard on a global platform. I feel like there's a few times where our message gets there, but for me personally, I really feel like there needs to be more push behind people who are actually trying to do something. Because everywhere you go in the black community, where there's hoods or urban areas, there's always some type of organization that are trying their fucking best and they're underfunded. They're not being the resources that they need in order to make changes. Because it's been documented, right, that when resources are given are implemented in areas where it's considered the hood, that these kids they do better. What I'm saying? They make it to college. What I'm saying? They get out of high school not being these statistics of being, teenage parents or drug dealers or gang members, shit like that. So it really starts like if you really want to make change in the black community, it starts in kindergarten. Like
Yeah,
it starts on the resources that they get in kindergarten. You know what I'm saying? Like you give them ability to have exactly what their counterparts have in better areas. I guarantee you will see a difference in the way that these kids grow up, the way that they process the world, because their insight and their views are limited to what they get out of their fucking front door every day. And it's
yeah,
hard to try to look for something better when you're in survival mode. We all know that, right?
yeah,
There's only a few opportunities for us to get out of these certain areas, sports, military, and other stuff like that. If there was a different avenue, what I'm saying, a different pipeline, for these kids who are in these impoverished areas, I guarantee you we would see a difference. People talking about, oh, what I'm saying, just, people are lost, black cultures. No, we are resilient. And we've been resilient in this country for over 500 years. So it's not us, the lack of us wanting to change, it's the lack of giving the opportunities to do so. So if you gave us the ability to put money in these areas, I guarantee you will see a change on the global scale. And I really feel like that's not something that happens, right? And I really feel like if we want to start, supporting politicians, that's what we need to start demanding. We need to start demanding them to fund areas of our community where we need that. And it's just one of those things where it's hard to, like I said, it's hard to vote because at the end of it, we always have like feel like we have a gun in our head, like, oh, if you don't vote this, then this is gonna happen. If you're gonna vote that, then that's gonna
Man,
happen. It's never, if you vote, this can benefit you. If you vote that, this could take. It's never really that. So I really feel like us, personally, we have to start holding people of color. I mean, people, in these high positions, ransom. Like, hey, look, this is what we want. These are our list of demands. Oh, you're not getting our vote. We can't keep voting. We can't. We have to refuse to keep voting for people that's not going to take care of us. You know what I'm saying? Like the young brother that's with the mayor, where they were calling him the DAI,
yeah,
fucking mayor. That shit pissed me the fuck off. I'm like, do we not know
bro,
how election works? Like, do we not understand that this is what most people wanted was for him? It wasn't a DAI fucking hire. And I feel like they utilized that as another word. Same thing with woke as another word to, fucking demonize people of color or demonize, policies that support people of color. Just something to think about.
nah, absolutely, bro. Absolutely, man. You made a lot of good points, man. Like just talking about like how kids learn, right? Like, and it's like, this dude that I watch, kids learn through the E's, right? Environment, exposure, education, experience, right? And it's like
100%.
if your environment is shaped by the legacy of racism and structural racism that they love to say that never exists, right?
Right.
Your environment is shaped like that, your education is underfunded, your exposure is people who grew up under the legacy of racism, right, where of structural racism, where their communities were divested, and yeah, just like a whole complete divestment of fucking resources, and also like just different platforms that can help people navigate society, and then also experiences are just going to be limited due to the lack of those three things. Then I mean, what do
Yeah.
you expect? Like, what do you
Yeah.
actually expect? And then, like you said again, that's why these orgs are here. These orgs show up because you got a passionate person who was able to really get lucky, right? Because it's
Yeah.
really the luck of the draw. Like, where you born, like who's your parents, who's your uncle, right? Who's your cousin? Like, all these people are
Yeah.
super duper important. And if you got majority of people being born into households where the mama got drug problems, the daddy all he was around was gang members, and you just got all these different types of negative people. Then what do you expect the outcome to be for the kid? Like, you just think that because he going to school and he around a white teacher all day, that the teacher is going to transform the nigga life. It's like, no, that's not how it's going to go. You need
Yeah.
you need like that's why they say it's systemic, because like people in these communities become products of where they came from, you know
Yeah.
um, and so yeah, like we definitely got to pay attention to those things, and I think like just honing in on those four things, and we can begin to transform those. That's where we really start to move forward
Right.
as a people, like especially in our communities. Like I hate that our communities are being so gentrified now, because it's starting to stretch Black people kind of thin, versus
Right.
like having a concentration of us in some of these places, because a lot of times this is where our culture is born as well,
Right.
right? But then now, if we just were able to infuse like this concentration of people with the correct resources that are under them ease of environment, education, exposure, experiences, right? Then you really start to see positive. You could really start to see positive outcomes, right? And also too, I be feeling like, man, Black people can be the key to American extended prosperity, right? Just with like China being on their ass right now,
Yeah.
or on our ass, right? Because shit, we American, right? We Black Americans, or whatever, as they, because yeah,
Yeah. It's
or
hard to say.
whatever, Yeah, it's hard
Yeah.
to yeah, it's
Or
hard to know
whatever.
if
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
it's hard to know if I'm a part of the club, like
Yeah.
if I'm a if
Yeah.
I as soon as I become something, I'm a DEI hire in their eyes, right?
Yeah.
Or I'm too woke, like whatever. Um, but yeah, man, and again, just like you said, like it goes back to where we really need to have a party of Black values. Like,
Yes.
I mean, I know they probably not going. We probably might not make it to a presidential candidate potentially. I would
Right.
love to see that, but if we had this party, at least like we can have some values aligned that are backed by the conditions that like our people at the bottom face. Like,
Oh,
and that's what
100%. Yeah.
that's where I'm just like, and then we really can begin to lobby based off of those values, but it's hard to even like organize people around those certain values. Like, like I definitely, I love decentralization, but like I think like at a certain point you need a foundation, like kind of centralize a couple values and maybe just like ideologically before you kind of go out into the world and try to fight the good fight, you
Right.
know. So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
I
man.
agree with that. I agree with that wholeheartedly. And like I said, I feel like for me, you know what I'm saying, like the the start of the breakdown of what our community was is the start of the crack epidemic. Which was proven by government officials, implementing and putting drugs into our communities. Section 8, where getting a black father out the household, like government pay for your house, but you can't have no man as the head of the household. There's a lot of stuff like there that really makes you ponder on what's next. So I love the way you said that. Those implementing those four things can definitely change the way our push forward, the way our outcome is. And me personally, I always feel like you know. In order for us to really change, it has to be some drastic change. And it really boils down like I ain't gonna lie, I love being a good album here and there, man, whatever hip hop album, but I really don't listen to anything that preaches our demise anymore. Because I just feel
Yeah,
like it doesn't benefit me, and why would I? You know what I'm saying? Like there's so many artists out there, like right now, currently out there that speak and they say stuff, and it really makes you feel like refreshed. It's a refresher. Like LaRussell,
yeah,
everything he puts out. You know what I'm saying? A young dude, his mindset, his mentality, the way that he comes across things, the way that he relates the message, and the way that his start is inspiring. And I feel like we have more LaRussells than the average person talking about drugs or this or that. I really feel like that would propel us as a culture as well. So
yeah, yeah, man. I mean, our culture, the propulsion of our culture was fueled by music, And I'm actually working on a video series about this,
yeah,
like going deep on that. But yeah, man, like, bro, you so right about that. And man, I've been stopped listening about music, listening to music that preaches our demise because, like, what people don't understand is that music just affects us on such a subconscious level. It's crazy, like,
it
like.
really is. It
I
really is.
remember I remember in 2014-ish, 2013-ish, whatever, when Future really started like cracking off and, he was coming out with the dirty sprites and all of that. And I can like, bro, being in fucking Watts, like I vividly remember my homies like lean becoming a thing. Like,
Yep.
and I'm like, shout out to Future and all, but like, I don't know, maybe not. But like I remember
Yeah.
lean becoming a thing around the time when he was making music that promoted to those heights. Like I
Right.
don't think people even fucking really. I mean, we knew what lean was because of like Lil Wayne, but Lil Wayne never like, in my opinion, he never really promoted lean in a way
Yeah.
that like other
Yeah.
folk did. We just saw Lil Wayne with the two styrofoam cups,
Yeah.
and sometimes that nigga had that shit bedazzled. But I just remember being a kid because I was
Yeah.
probably younger at that time.
You would have to
Like
assume what
BET
was in that
Awards,
cup. You didn't really
you had
know.
to
Just
assume.
what was
Exactly.
in that
Like
cup.
that nigga at the BET Awards with the two stack cups or
Yeah.
whatever. We didn't know what the fuck was in that cup. Like,
Yeah.
he rapped like I got that drink in my cup.
Right.
Nigga, apple juice? Like, what is in the
Apple.
cup? Like,
Oh
he
shit.
might
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
might mention lean every now and then, but it wasn't like it just
Molly.
wasn't
Molly
promoted.
Percocet. Molly Percocet. Those are the songs. Like it really. I think it really turned this generation into a bunch of zombies. Like. And I
Man,
think we still reeling from that. It really turned a lot. I seen a lot of homeboys, what I'm saying, get turned up and turned out. And that shit was kind of sad. Like, damn, bro. Like, you can't even have a full conversation with them. You know what I'm saying? And, like, it really made me feel like that was like the second, what I'm saying, coming of our generation getting destroyed by drugs. And that shit was it was sad. That shit was sad, bro. It was sad
yeah.
seeing a lot of homies that they be like smart, inquisitive dudes, man. Like they had their shit together. What I'm saying, leaned out. You know what I'm saying, and like could barely have a conversation with, could barely figure the word, and I'm like, damn, like you stole your grandma's, cough syrup so you could be out here with it in the cup. It's crazy to me. And I'll never not think about how those songs really influenced that generation. You know what I'm saying? Like, and gang songs have always influenced people to do negative shit too. And I'm like, and I always think about that. Like, when would that change? You know what I'm saying? Like, us as a culture. And I started this thing, right, where, what I'm saying, being from California, I had this predatory mindset when I seen somebody that looked like me to stare them down, you know what I'm saying, to not say shit to them and to be whatever time they was on, right? And I started, every time I see somebody that looked like me in the store, I'm like, what's up, brother? How you doing? You know what I'm saying? And I see that some people, it disarms them, right? Because in their mindset, they on high alert, just like how we on high alert. And I realized a lot of other places, you know what I'm saying, brothers, they do that to each other and they communicate with each other. And it's really like, I feel like it's a California thing, mainly because of the gang population out here, that when we interact with each other, we got to test each other's temperature first to figure out what we're on. And I feel like, what I'm saying, it's pretty sad because we don't have that energy towards nobody else. You know what I'm saying? Like, I remember coming, out to LA one time and there was this young cat and he was like staring me down. I'm like, bro, what is your issue? You know what I'm saying? I said what's up to him, and then eventually it softened his posture, right? But before that, he probably viewed me as somebody that was in his territory or whatever the case may be, which I understand and I get, what I'm saying, because you have to be, cognitive of the area because of what's going on. But I really think that, that is a big change too. Like, people really gotta stop pushing gang culture and start really pushing unity. And I think we will see changes in our community as well. So, but,
Yeah,
I
man.
digress. It's one of those things that it's been around for the last 40, 50 years, and it's really one of those things hard to shake. You know what I'm saying? And with gangs, you get this ability to be a part of something bigger than yourself, and sometimes that's all we want as little boys. We don't have fathers or growing up situation, our mothers or drug heads. We want to feel connected to something or somebody, and that's the reason why a lot of these people go so hard for these streets and blocks that we don't really own. And I really feel like if there was a change in the way that we interact with each other there, if people really start seeing that, it's us as brothers than each other as enemies. And it's gonna take a lot of dismantling. It's gonna take a lot of ego to stop that type of stuff from happening because a lot of stuff is done on both sides of those gangs where they lose the homie here because they shot him. They lose the homie there because they shot him. And when you have that type of energy between each other, it's a lot of animosity that's built up, and it's hard for them people to come together to to do something to further their community. But I feel like there has to be something that can be done to stop that from happening. There got to be something that can be done to push these people into a better lifestyle that's more beneficial, so they can be there for their kids. Because I'm tired of seeing homies posted up on RIP this and RIP that. And I'm thinking in my head like there has to be a better way. You know, the introduction of putting black people on T-shirts got to stop, and they got to stop with us meeting. At the level of us having these uncomfortable conversations with each other. And I feel like that's something we don't really do.
Absolutely, bro. The thing that popped into my mind, bro, one of my favorite interviews that Nipsey Hussle did was with Ebro, and he
Yeah.
basically had broke down like the mindset of like a gang member, and he was just talking about how you like kind of hunting yourself.
Oh
Um,
yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. When he said that shit, I was like, God damn, because that's so real. Like, like that's really real. Like, you ain't gonna press the square, but you gonna press the dude who talk like you, who gotta walk like you, and all of that. You know. Um, and man, yeah, I mean that definitely has to stop, and it's just like an indoctrination thing at this point within the neighborhoods, like, because
Yeah.
I grew up like, I went to school in them areas, and them was my homies and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and one thing that I noticed, right, like it was this one dude that was in the program with me, we was in this program in high school, Black Male Youth Academy or whatever, and like, he was a gang member. And I tell this story all the time, like all the time, right? But the dude was basically gang banging. He didn't care about really school. He didn't care about too much. But all of a sudden, as he was like while being in a program, this program is teaching you like knowledge of self. We learning about Africa, and like, we
Right.
learning that we more than just slaves and all of that type of stuff. I see this dude go from ditching class, not caring about school and everything. He actually found some self pride in himself and who he was. And then bro was studying for a math test. And I was like, what the fuck? I'm in office hours. I'm trying to, like, you feel me? I'm trying to go, I'm like I'm on the borderline to going to college. So I got to get a grade up. So that's really the only reason I'm there. But I see bro up in there, and he really like, I mean, he wasn't college bound or nothing, but he was up after school during office hours studying for a test, making up work. And I was like, wow, what the fuck?
yeah,
I was surprised to see him there. But, then when you look at like some of his responses and stuff, he just talked about how like he felt like he was a part of something like better than that,
yeah.
you know?
You gave him
And
purpose. Yeah, purpose.
yeah, exactly. The program
You
had
gave him
gave him like
purpose.
a more positive purpose for to be at school and to like to do better things versus like school just existing as a place where you just do your thing at or whatever. It was like, no,
Yeah,
this program gave him a sense of purpose. It spoke to who he was as like a black young man, like and his unique experiences and how his gang even became a gang and all of the
yeah,
structural things that happened that
yeah,
put that made the gang, that made people violent in the first place, that made people form gangs in the first place, right? So I thought that was like pretty profound. And when I think about that, I'm like, okay, like that's a way, right? That's
yeah,
one of the ways too. Just like you said, like it gotta happen in kindergarten, it gotta happen in school at some point. Like,
yeah,
but the thing is that school don't really speak to like the individual. Like it's on like schools are doing a better job of it now. I'm starting to see that they're kind of tailoring themselves to the community at large.
right.
Because I always look at it like this: it's like everybody kind of got a different floor, like like a different floor of like to be pulled
Yeah,
up from, right?
right.
Like some people floor down here, some people floor up here, whatever. School kind of hit people here at this floor, right? So if you at
Yeah,
this floor, then school gonna pick you up and take you wherever you need to go. But if your floor is down here, and down here, then you need extra resources, you need extra mentors, you need extra exposure, experiences, and environments to help pull you up to get to this
right.
point. And
And
that's kind of like that's what the program did. Because if bro didn't care, bro, he was down here, and the program came and lifted him up to about here, and then he was able to go out. And I think bro's doing this thing now. Like he out. I think he joined the military or something like that, and he out in Virginia and stuff like that. But I just say that to say like that's a part of that thing. And then to your point of like we need to bring people together. Another thing that I noticed, right, from just like being an observer in the hood, because I was an observer, right? I
Right.
was not, I was cool enough to hang out with the gangbangers and the
Yeah,
fucking the drug dealers and the criminals and stuff, but I
right.
did not indulge allegedly.
Yeah,
But another thing that I saw was opportunity that like when you walk in a black community, like for it, like put it like this, in a black community, the Hispanics and the Asians own all the businesses, right?
right.
You ain't really walking. The only thing a black person own in a black community is a barbershop.
Yeah.
Like you feel me? And so
But,
like if you don't want to cut
but
hair, it's a wrap.
yeah, but like you
Uh,
said, because of that, there's historical and systematic reason why that's the reason why that is the way it is too. So, let me cut you
exactly.
off. We're gonna hear what's your point. Yeah, but there's reason why that happens the way it happens too. You know what I'm saying? You got people not giving black people loans to start businesses in their own community, but they allow other people to come in and do it. That's why we're at where we're at too. But go ahead, cousin.
Absolutely, absolutely. And see, the other thing is that like like they can walk through their community. I mean, I never went to school with an Asian person.
Yeah,
When I was going to school in Watts, never went to school with an Asian person. Never went to school with a white person. But Asians own businesses in the black community. But my point is that the Hispanics, my observation of the Hispanics in our community is that they can walk up and down the street and there's a tire shop. They own all of the Louisiana fried chickens. They even own the off-brand chicken restaurants, right? It's one called Clucks that
right,
if you walk in there, it's all Asians up in there. Then they own the grocery store. I mean, not the grocery stores, the liquor stores. You feel me?
right.
And then like there's no representation. And I say all this to say, right, no shade to the Asian community or nothing, but I say all this to say that there is not enough representation in businesses and in just economic
Yeah,
self-determination in the black community, literally in the black community. I don't mean like on social media and shit, you popping your collar and shit, you big tech, worker, whatever. I'm talking about inside of the black community is not enough representation. So them kids is gravitating to what they see. You feel me?
Right.
And
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
if the big homies is shining and all the girls want him because he this rah rah dude and he's selling drugs or whatever or he's scamming and stuff, that's what they gonna want to do.
Yeah.
Because that's what's getting the attention that he wants. And
Yeah.
so there's not enough representation. And so the thing is that we need to focus on bringing opportunities to these kids at a younger age, where the opportunity to put the right amount of money in their pockets to where they feel whole, like because that's
100%.
the other part of it, is they want to feel whole. They want to feel whole where, like, okay, boom, I got enough money, I can go eat, I can go do this. Moms might not be able to do it, pops might not be able to like give me what I need. So at a certain point, they gonna go want to make their own type of money in a certain way, and there's no thing to grasp onto. Like, okay, boom, I can start here, I can start here, I can
Right.
do that. It's like it's all negative. Like all of the starting points is like negative. You
Right.
know, I mean, now we got social media. They growing up with social media a little bit stronger than like I
Right.
did. It was like real light back then. So I don't know what the influence is now, but I know like it was really strong in the streets. And so
Yeah.
it's just like we need more representation in our community for like positive, self-determined economic activities for the youth to like want to grab onto, whether or not we bringing people into the classrooms, or if we just got like certain mentorship programs. Like, man, some of these dudes, man, if you in software and tech, like maybe you need to pull up to a
Yeah.
classroom, a black classroom in Watts with a fucking one of them iced out Cubans or something,
Yeah.
you
Something,
know,
man. Yeah.
just to get their fucking attention. Come
Yeah,
there with a
attention,
grill
man.
on, like,
Man,
hey,
something
hey,
got to be up to.
have these software developers pulling up to the classroom with a grill, a diamond out grill, and fucking, like look like a
Yeah.
fucking rapper or something. Cause then they might, oh shit, you got that from there. Okay, fuck it, I'm about to
Might pay
go.
attention to it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Might
they
pay
might want
attention
to
to it.
persist through it. They might want to
Yeah.
persist through it. So that's how I'm starting to look at it, because it's just like reverse engineering the problem. Like reverse engineering a problem into a solution. It's like, okay, that's the
100%.
problem, is that they gravitate to what they see. So let's put some shit in front of them that they can aspire to be. That's actually gonna help the community going forward. Like
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's kind of how
100%.
I'm looking at that. You
Yeah,
know.
I look at it the same way because I think that's important. You know, people are going to pay attention to what's going on, and if they see, I hate to say it, but if you look like you got money, you making money, people are going to want to know how you making it, what you're doing, so they can make it. So I think that it may not be too far fetched of an idea of some tech guy showing up. You know what I'm saying? Dripped out. It may not be. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if that's the solution that's going to get the youth engaged or whatever the case may be, but it might be something that it could do something is what I'm saying. So I
Well,
mean, me
man,
personally,
go ahead, go ahead. No, you say
I
you
say, yeah,
personally what?
me personally, I remember being, young buck back in the day, and I see somebody, shine, and I'm like, oh, okay, you know what I'm saying? Man's is doing pretty well for himself if he's doing this. And so what is he doing, and how can I do it? Because I'm in an act of desperation. I'm living in desperation. I'm living in a situation where, you know what I'm saying, like it'd be nice to have a little bit more money in my pocket. So if I can see how he's doing it in the way that he's doing it, then shit, that's a possibility.
Yeah,
So yeah,
and even create a pipeline to stuff like that. Like, and I know that it might sound crazy, but you know, I I've worked in the classrooms, and
yeah,
working in the classrooms, you see what they gravitate to. Like, I always talk to like the youth when I'm in the classrooms, just to see what they into, and like who and what and why. And they always gravitate to like who's shining, like who's
yeah,
shining the brightest, or like who getting this type of attention, because they're trying to figure out what's their next moves. Even if they're not, they are, like, sometimes they might not be, but they still are subconsciously. So
yeah,
that's why I'm like, okay, so if we show them, like, because sometimes, like, because think about it, right? Black people, like, I mean, now that, like, when you get older and you see, okay, damn, he making money, like, in tech, we like, okay, yeah, bet, I think I could do that. I like computers. And then we get into it and we making all this money. But like as
yeah,
a youth, sometimes, you looking at the tech dude, and he a nerd. He ain't got no drip. You feel me? Bro got a crummy fucking blazer with,
yeah,
some fucking Vans
yeah.
on. and some
Yeah,
faded ass jeans, and it's just like, bro, I'm not trying to be like him.
yeah.
Like,
No,
but then if he had if he wore a little piece, some pieces of his bank account on him, about some
yeah.
nice little chain, and then you start to see the wealth that he has, and then it's like, oh, okay, that's something that I definitely would love to aspire to, because then I can be able to afford the things that I want to do, and whoop de whoop whoop, like,
And I think I think as a culture, as we start progressing more, you know what I'm saying, we can get beyond the monetary things or the
yeah,
physical aspect of what a person looks like in order to determine if they're successful or not. Right now, I don't think
yeah,
that we there culturally just yet. And I feel like that would be a good way to reach somebody. It's sad to say, but you know what I'm saying, our youth, they look at stuff through the lens of successful what a person is doing or how they're doing it. And it's on social media because everything's flashy. And I think that's one of the biggest things is that it's so easy for them to be depressed about not making it or not getting somewhere fast enough because they're seeing life fold extremely fast. Like, dude, we was on MySpace. It ain't shit popping on MySpace. The worst thing you have was like a top 10 list of friends on there. So you wasn't really worried about what the fuck somebody was doing. You know what I'm saying? But now you see people and they floss in their cars, they whips, and the women that they're around or the men that they're around. And it's one of those things where it like that is culture. Like culture is influenced by what's going on. And if you look like you got it going on, then that's it. So that is one of the biggest things that I think, that it could be discussed. It could be put on the table. Like having people coming from these weird fields that we normally don't choose that are being extremely successful, coming back to these areas and talking to these youth because they walk around with a cell phone in their hand all day. They could probably fucking code. They could probably do something with that shit. So yeah, that's a good take on it. I like that take on it.
yeah, and because also, like, I think the depth comes with like age. I
Yeah,
think, some people who just be beyond their time and stuff like that. Like,
yeah.
like me, I was, when I was 18, I was actually like 45 in the mind,
Yeah.
but like,
Well, you know what?
a lot.
I think that also boils down to having parents that were a little older. Your pops was one of a kind type of dude, man, and just the conversation that I would have with him and the way that he was, that there was no way that you weren't going to have the mentality or the mindset that you have currently today if it wasn't for your father pushing these type of ideologies that made you think at a more mature level than people that were at your age. Like, and I feel like that's another thing too is that we got younger parents, so we kind of bring things off on the thing. But I feel like that was one of the best benefits that you had for you was having a father that was of a different generation. The same thing, my father, he's of a different generation. Teaching, like, hey, this is life and this is what it is. So I really feel like that was a kind of a bonus, in
Absolutely,
your situation for sure. So I always say,
absolutely,
I always
absolutely,
want, I always quote him. You know what I'm saying? One of my favorite quotes from him will always be good to the world, and the world will be good to you." And I feel
man.
like I've modeled that uh, currently in my life as much as I could. So
Man, absolutely. Likewise, bro. I think,
yeah,
you know, and see, that's the part too, is like where we have to figure out how to like package this wisdom for the youth,
yeah,
as
yes,
well. Like, and I'm not saying like be all dripped out and stuff like that. That's packaging
yeah,
the wisdom, but it's like really figuring out how to package certain wisdom and stuff like that for,
yeah,
the black youth that are growing up right now in
yeah,
these households with younger parents, who may or may not be trying to distill the wisdom to them. Like, they might not look at it as a priority, or like, oh yeah, they young, or they gonna get it later, like that. And it's like,
yeah,
nah, like shit starting now. You
yeah,
gotta have all these type of conversations with your kids, and just tell them about life and how to navigate and stuff like that,
yeah,
like in a way that's age appropriate. But
yeah.
yeah, like,
Yeah.
I think
Don't let the internet raise your children. You know.
yeah, exactly, man, and that's hard even for me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm trying to teach my kids any chance I can get, and like, they be on their tablets and stuff, and I really be having to like monitor what they watching, and
Yeah.
tell them, oh yeah, you can't watch this, or
Yeah.
like, because yeah, bro, the internet is raising a lot of these kids, and it's these
Yeah.
algorithms, and it's like, what's crazy though, and
Yeah.
this another video that I'm gonna make in the future, send my idea list, but it's like this algorithm, right? We got this algorithm that we have this algorithm, and it's like it's used to produce all like to keep you locked into Instagram and TikTok and all this shit, right?
Right.
and then whatever, like, and it's meant to feed you your interest on a regular
Right.
basis, right? And we kind of learn through whatever we what might catch our eyes, right? Um, and it's like, and then they feed us more of it, and it's like you can really like these algorithms could really be deconstructed in a way to really teach these kids like about life and just so many positive things. Like imagine like getting a kid like, and I don't want to use this term for what I'm trying to say, but like not really addicted, but just like looking forward to getting on their phone and reading positive things about the world and about their futures and about
Right.
things that, just like imagine if it was like reacclimated to like push positivity. And if it like if the phones are going to raise our kids, then like why are certain companies not like, okay, I mean it's kind of inevitable, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't even let my kids get on TikTok and Instagram and stuff like that right now.
Yeah.
But
It's not
it, yeah, it's just not, yeah. And they want to, but I'm like, nah, like,
too
but
young. Yeah.
like it's like imagine if they had an algorithm for kids, like, where
So
like
algorithm with wisdom.
it
Yeah.
yeah, it's like where you not exposed to all the hot dances and all the shit that's just gonna
Yeah.
get you watching the shit all day. But like, how about you like you tricking people to stay on the platform all day? Why don't you trick people? Why don't you trick kids and people to do positive things? Like learn how to do shit or like, you know, my kids for the social media that they do watch, they be wanting to do the dances. It's like, well, why don't you inspire them to want to build something or do something good
Yeah.
or
Uh-huh.
like that's
Yeah.
kind of how I'd be looking at that too.
I definitely hear you. I feel like that, that would be something that would, really revolutionize. I think you said earlier how we can package it. I mean, algorithmism, but then again, if you think about the way if somebody can package an idea to you, that can be used as negative too, because what I'm saying. But then again, algorithms are, if you click on a certain video, you get that certain type of information, then it start flooding your feed with that particular type of information too. So algorithm is a double edged sword depending on how it's utilized for the youth. But I'm big
Right,
on that. I believe in that. But
right,
yeah,
right,
these
right.
kids, these kids gotta figure that shit out. They can't be trying to participate in the twerk Olympics every year. If they could, you can package some type of education thing to them. I think that'd be beneficial too. But
I mean, I'm just saying, like, the motive is profit,
yeah. Oh yeah.
right?
Oh yeah.
And so,
Yeah. We're
that's the
talking about
problem.
it.
The problem is profit is the motive. If profit was not the motive and the motive was to actually raise the kids positively, like, centered around like maybe like three or four values, right? Because like, it's a massive platform, so it will be hard to align with everybody values, but if you could just align with like four core values for the kids, like maybe they can see a little bit of our stuff, but for the most part, you got a kid's Instagram or a young person's Instagram, a teenager Instagram. It's centered around like four values of, education and, empathy or, self control. I don't know, like whatever, right? Like get a scientist or a psychologist or something to define those things, but center the experience around those things. Fuck the profit, and actually, then people gonna grow up and be like, oh man, like not saying that we should let, and I'm not saying all this to say that we should let
Yeah.
social media and the internet teach our kids or anything like that. But if y'all gonna make these addictive platforms that we're going to feel like, that people are going to fucking subconsciously pick up and look at, then at
Right.
the very least, allow it to have something positive
Oh, 100%.
for our
Yeah.
kids. Like,
Hundred
versus
percent.
like giving them the latest drama, giving them the latest dance,
Yeah.
showing them some stupid shit. Like, it's
It's
like,
more than life. Yeah.
yeah, so
It's
that's
more
kind of
than life.
how I'm looking at it. But yeah,
Yeah.
man.
I agree with it. Yeah.
I
So
don't
I think
know.
I think
Oh, go ahead, go ahead.
no, I think we can knock this one out. You know what I'm saying? We got
Yeah,
128,
yeah.
so I
I
feel
was
like we
just
can
about to
sharpen this
say.
shit and just start. Yeah.
I was just about to say.
We start cutting up.
I think this is a good.
Stopping point.
This is a good little. I think we covered everything. Man, I think we covered everything that we wanted to cover. Okay,
Yeah.
hold on. Okay. I think we
Yeah.
covered everything that we wanted to cover. I think this was a good inaugural episode. I think we had a really great conversation. You feel me?
Um,
For anybody, for those of you who watched to this point, especially for the first one, I appreciate y'all.
yeah, yeah,
Deeply appreciate y'all. We definitely want to like we want to make this very consistent, and we're gonna do our best to do that. And
yeah.
again, I'm appreciative of y'all, tuning in.
Yeah, 100%. I really think, like, what Mark said, this part is the podcast is elevated insight, right? The goal plan is to create positive, healthy dialogue that is going to further us in our community, as well as conversations that are not being had. You know what I'm saying? I'm pretty sure if you look at most podcasts or something like that, individual training, a lot of stuff has been covered and talked about. But the goal plan here is to bring it onto one platform and currently discuss, things, period. So if there's anything that you could add to it or take away from it, we'll appreciate it. So, elevated,
Absolutely. And if
elevated
it's
insight.
yeah, elevated insights, y'all. Last thing, if it's something that we missed or something that we may not have a full picture on, feel free to put it in the comment section. Let us know, if everything was, not saying that it wasn't on point, but like, let's just say if there is some new data or whatever, please put it in the comment. But yeah, we just want to bring new perspectives to the forefront. And yeah, with that being said, first episode of Elevated Insights, man, we out.
That's up. Peace.
Peace.